Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the Dwarves led by Rune Lord atop his mighty Pimp Anvil and the Warriors of Chaos, who are going to be led by the KFC Lord himself. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So in the front line, I do have a very heavy core of Longbeards with great weapons. In the center, of course, they're going to be anchored by the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, which, like I've said in a multitude of casts, are one of those units that are pretty much a must-bring, with 82 melee defense, 40 melee attack, which, it's funny, when you look at their stat card, it actually is like, oh, their melee attack's so bad, but it's actually really good. Compared, it just looks bad in comparison to their melee defense. But I guess right now they have 109 leadership, which I think is augmented by having their flank secured and a couple other things, but they're basically unbreakable. They're one of those units that are just going to fight to the bitter end. So that's pretty much it in my front line. You do need some armor piercing. Granted, some Chaos players will bring Chaos Marauders with great weapons, which actually trade pretty efficiently with Longbeards, but still, these guys, in my opinion, are the safer pick in the front line. They're going to be anchored by the Rune Lord on his Anvil, and the reason I bring him on the Anvil is because he gets a Locus of Power, so it gives your entire army a map-wide effect of an additional 15% magic resist, which I think puts Dwarves up to, let's see, what is it? Well, this guy's at 55. Let's see what the Norgrimlings are at. So I think they're at 40. Yeah, I think it's 40 for everyone, which is very good. I've been running into a lot of Chaos players who will use Fate of Buna on your Norgrimlings. They'll use Final Transmutation with like Balthazar Gelt to try and snipe your lords, and Warp Chicken can do the same thing. He can bring the Final Transmutation, which he did. So having that extra magic res on my entire army is going to be very useful. And he does magic damage on top of that, so it's going to make him even more of a wet noodle. On top of that, we do have two groups of Thunders, which are just going to be shooting, Armored Chaos Trolls, Shaggoths, great weapons, pretty much anything they can get their clutches on here. So we have two of those. Protecting those guys, we have the Dragonback Slayers here. I think we have some Miners with blasting charges on the periphery of the army, which I like a lot. Very good against Chaos Marauders. If they have to fight Armored Chaos Warriors with great weapons and things like that, they can put a little bit of a dent in them. They're definitely not pushovers. I think they're a very cost-effective unit, and for something that dirt cheap to have such good leadership, it's awesome. On top of that, we have two Thanes, pretty much a staple here, and I really like this synergy. Having, getting your rune value out of your Lord, and then being able to use double Tormentor Sword against Chaos, who's typically going to be running big spooky monsters amongst your army, is invaluable. It's very important. And we got an Organ Gun, so we're getting very powder heavy here. We have the two Thunders, we have the Organ Gun, which is going to be, just hopefully wrecking some elite troops or going after the Hell Cannons in the back. But I'm really excited to see how this does. And we got some Miners in the back to protect it. So that's pretty much it for my army. So for my opponent, he's getting a little bit hog wild. He does indeed have double Hell Cannon, and definitely some very good play or deployment for my opponent, splitting them up. Splitting up your artillery against Dwarves is very good, because I have to make a conscious choice. I'm like, which one do I go after? Do I march straight, or do I split my forces in two? It's anything you can do to force your opponent to have to make hard decisions in this game is very good. So I like that quite a bit. He does have three Chaos Warriors with great weapons. I think he has one here, one in the back, and one here. His main core is going to be mostly chaff, and that's probably largely due in part because of the double Hell Cannons, which are obviously very expensive. Chaos Marauders with great weapons, a regular Chaos Marauder, so he's just going to be trying to swarm and lock me down, and probably buy time for his Hell Cannons to do most of the damage. He does also have Sartorial, the Ever Chicken, which isn't a bad pick against the Dawi. He's very hard to, it's very hard to lock him down. He's very durable against missile attacks, so Thunders and things like that typically don't do very well, so you definitely need to use like Slayers to bring him down. And I think he has some Warhounds and some Marauder Horsemen over there in the forest. So without further ado, guys, let's get the show on the road. So right now, just going to be advancing my forces here. I will fast forward a little bit as there is some posturing and whatnot. So you can see on the far side here, he is bringing some Hounds around, probably looking to get into my cookie jar back here. So realizing there was quite a bit of pressure, I do pull back some Slayers to protect my Organ Gun, and you can see his Hell Cannons doing some good work. One group of Thunders took some heavy HP damage. It looks like they took about 25%, give or take. And it looks like the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers have gotten tagged a little bit, but they're in a much looser formation, or wider, I should say. And typically with like handgunner type units, I should have spread them out, but the reason you keep them tight is because they can then turn faster. So what I decided to do is get my entire main force, push forward after this Hell Cannon, try and shut it down, and then get my Organ Gun, because Organ Guns can do pretty good against Hell Cannons. I don't think it necessarily targets the Hell Cannon itself as well as like a cannon would, but it will annihilate the cannon crew, which is going to leave it pretty much useless. So still taking quite a bit of Hell Cannon fire. You can see Warp Chicken sitting on the periphery of the army. I decided to leave one Thane back here just in case he just, beeline for this. I wanted to pin him down. But that Hell Cannon really just wreaking havoc on my Thunders here. So bit of a mistake not splitting that bad boy up. But I do have, I think, a little bit of a superior infantry quality with the great weapons and Norgrimlings and Slayers and, the Thanes and things like that. So if I can survive this Hell Cannon harassment, we should be okay. So you can see my crew right there getting tagged pretty hard, but they're still going to be pushing forward. And I still do have all three Organ Guns. So we're just about in range, which is going to be very nice. So Warp Chicken is going to be coming for the cookie jar. You can see he's charging in there with his Pimp Cane. Definitely going to be tough for the guys. But I turn and fight with these guys. I'm like, I don't need to run. And then the Dragonback Slayers are going to respond pretty quickly. In the front line, you can see the Dawi forces have engaged. Blasting charges going off against Marauders, which is great. My great weapons are engaging, and with the support of a Rune Lord, I'm just going to crush this particular group of frontliners. But he does have the great weapons coming in a secondary wave, so it kind of looks like he might be able to overwhelm me here, which is tough. Blasting charges coming in here as well and just wrecking these Chaos Marauders. Blasting charges are just so damn good against lightly armored troops, so we get some really good damage off those, but just hordes and hordes of Chaos troops coming out of the forest here. And a little bit of sloppy play from my Thunders. I'm just trying to secure my back line, so Dragonback Slayers do have a slow. So as soon as they get their clutches on the Warp Chicken, they put him down to 39 speed. So they're actually faster than him now, and we're starting to kind of pin him a little bit, which is good. My Organ Gun, I did lose one to those Marauder Horsemen who were getting a little bit busy right there. But the Organ Gun's now starting to shoot in. So you can see a couple volleys coming in, and let's see the kind of damage. It looks like it just a huge swing and a miss right there, but actually it took out a couple Cannon Crew guys, or at least hit one. So we should be able to, after like 2 or 3 more volleys, shut down this Hell Cannon, I think. I'm also going to be getting these miners right here to go out and kind of screen the Marauder Horsemen. Definitely a mistake doing that with the Slayers, but the front line's a pretty pitched fight. I'm probably going to get overwhelmed now that I look, but I did get one group of miners up and around the back, so these are the hero miners. And my opponent does have Chaos Warriors guarding this, but I'm still going to shut down the Hell Cannon and probably kill a couple crew members, but you can see some very good micro on his part. He's going to pull that back and just run through the Chaos Warriors, which is very, very smart. The Warp Chicken's still just causing problems, just trying to get my handgunners or thunders kind of reorganized, and what I decided to do at this point, it was kind of wasteful to have them in this pocket. There wasn't really any targets they could shoot, so I just get them over here, and I'm going to form a secondary battle line. My Organ Gun here is just annihilating this crew, so 1 or 2 more shots, and that Hell Cannon should be pretty much offline, which is going to be very nice. So these Slayers are just kind of partying, just using these miners to fend off these Marauder Horsemasters, so it looks like he was indeed trying to kill Slayers or Cannon Crews with those guys, but we're starting to stabilize a little bit. So these handgunners are going to get in position, and you can see they're starting to take some fire into the edge of my opponent's formation, which is going to be really good. Just shooting at some of these great weapons and Chaos Marauders and all that kind of good stuff, and we will see what the other battle line is going to shoot at. I think they're going to... I think I actually like told them to attack, but for some reason they just like kept marching closer. It's very similar to like what happens with handgunners. But the miners in the back did a very good job. They bought me a lot of time for that Hell Cannon. It still hasn't started firing yet. In the front line, it's a very even engagement, but the Norgamling's Ironbreakers are just monsters at killing low-tier infantry. So they're just going to push through, and you can see that these Chaos Marauders are just getting pushed in. My Rune Lord is going to be pulled back to try and help me support this secondary line I've been forming here. In the meantime, this Organ Gun has completely killed the Hell Cannon crew, if I'm not mistaken. You can see my Thunders right now have reformed ranks, and we're just starting to shoot and actually get some good value. So the Horsemasters are going down to the Thunder fire, and this Organ Gun or this Hell Cannon, I don't even know if it's still firing anymore. I think you need more than 2 crew members to shoot it. So it looks like it's not firing anymore. So that's really good for me. And it looks like these Thunders, like I said, are just continuing to shoot in here. And as these guys do advance, they're just taking withering gunfire. You can see these guys are going down. And this Dawi Thane is going to be pushing forward, undoubtedly dropping some karate kicks. And yeah, it looks like they're just going to break right there. So the Rune Lord a little bit surrounded. Him and some very beleaguered miners are just holding this front here. I'm able to get, I think I had a Tormentor Sword on these guys to break their charge initially. But then the Slayers are able to get in there, and they're going to just start beating the hell out of these Hounds. Even though the Hounds are considered infantry size, so I'm not going to get the bonus versus large, but still Slayers hit very hard. So you can see we're able to break those guys, which is good. So I do have my secondary battle line here. So even if we lose this frontline engagement here, Bounce of Power is still just dead even. So this is anyone's game at this point. But even if I lose this front line, I kind of figured to myself, I'm like, these Thunders can just sit, and anything that wants to approach me is going to take some, very heavy fire. And you can see that one Chaos Warrior there gets its headshot off, which definitely some marksmen among the Dawi here. That other Hell Cannon is online, but thankfully I can now just switch my Organ Gun and start shooting at it, and hopefully taking it out, because it has 8 or 9 shots left, which is nothing to sneeze at. So just getting some of that handgunner fire and just pushing forward the Dragonback Slayers, just taking apart these Chaos Warriors with that Thunder fire. But he does get into the back line, a very good charge. I kind of thought I had dealt with the Hounds and fended them off with my Slayers, but they do come back and get into the cookie jar. And Thunders are pretty tanky with 80 armor, and I think 28 melee defense. I'm able to fend them off, but the Hounds still are able to rout them, which is definitely a little bit of a problem. So Final Transmutation going down for my opponent, definitely good. It hits my Thanes, it hits the Slayers here, the Rune Lord, but that magic resist from the Anvil really just kind of coming in strong here. And the MVPs in so many games, like Norgamling's Ironbreakers, even against troops that are supposed to kill them, like great weapons, they just are just beasts. So you can see these dwarves just standing and fighting and really just buying, excuse me, buying a ton of time for my Thunders and troops in the back line to generate a lot of value. So you can see right here, 45 Thunder is going to be shooting into these Chaos Marauders, and the Bounce Power for the first time in this game is going to be switching into my favor a little bit. So let me just take a quick drink of water. It's allergy season, boys. But anyways, the Thunders are shooting in there, and you can see that a lot of the great weapons and troops are starting to just wither because I have this firing line that's somewhat healthy. He is going to be charging in with the Horsemasters, but I was protecting with the Miners. So the Miners are going to turn. They got their pitchforks out for Harambe. They're going to be laying quite a whooping on these boys because Marauder Horsemasters actually, I think, have pretty good combat stats for melee. What is it? 26, 26, 20, well, actually 26, 26, 28 on the, or that's actually their charge bonus. But yeah, it's not bad. But anyways, the Miners are able to fend off those Marauder Horsemasters right there, which is very nice. And now we just have to deal with the Warp Chicken. The other Hell Cannon is offline. You can see that it's starting to get relatively... Oh, it's actually... I was wondering. I was like, where is it moving up here? But looks like there's only 2 guys left on this Hell Cannon crew, so they're not going to be able to man it. That's actually... I learned something in this game. I was like, oh, do you need... How many guys do you truly need to man the Hell Cannon? But it looks like you do need more than 2, because both of the crews are just charging in their desperate last attempt here. But yeah, the Warp Chicken is always tough to grab, but that's why Thanes with Tormentor Swords are so good. And yes, you can shoot him with missiles. It's just not going to do a lot of damage, but most of the Chaos Forces at this point are buckling. You can see the Thane and the Rune Lord. I do get a Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin against these Chaos Warriors, which is going to do a lot of damage. You can see the Organ Guns are shooting at them. I think I have some Thunders getting in position to shoot them as well. So we should be able to fend off the rest of these forces. Balance of power at this point is really starting to come into my favor. And Sartorial, the Ever Chicken, looks like he is indeed surrounded. And there's 57 Dragonback Slayers, and they're pretty much a hard counter to this guy. I mean... Because, yeah, Sartorial's pretty much, like, impervious to magic and gunfire for the most part, so you really need to bring him down. Like, for Dwarves, it's hard, but Dragonback Slayers are so good. Because you can see he's actually slower than them. They have 40 speed compared to his 39 when they're attacking him, so it allows you to get a lot of extra attacks here. So, down goes the Warp Chicken, and that's going to be all she wrote for the Warriors of Chaos. I think there's a couple Hell Cannon crews going around, but that's it. So let's take a look at the breakdown, see what really worked out. So ultimately, the Organ Gun was one of the MVPs in conjunction with the Norgumlings. The Organ Gun was able to actually snipe out both the Hell Cannons, and I was really on the fence this game. I was like, God, do I bring an artillery piece? I feel like I just want to advance, but it ultimately ended up saving me, because had I not had that pressure on that other Hell Cannon to take it out, like, at the halfway point of the game, it would have just been raining fire and fire, and probably would have finished off a group of Thunderers. Could have been a very different game. On top of that, the Norgumlings Ironbreakers, because I was overwhelmed in the front line. I had to pull back forces to defend against the Hounds and the Horsemen and things like that. So those Norgumlings, the fact that they were able to hold back a massive tide of Chaos Marauders, which is so clutch. So definitely some good stuff there. And for my opponent, definitely a very fun army composition. The double Hell Cannon build can be very treacherous for the Dwarves, but ultimately the Organ Gun ended up doing its work. So very well played my opponent, Danny Shadbolt. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the showdown between the Dawi and the Warriors of Chaos. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.